Hi, my name is Ann Morrison. I'm the artistic director and co-founder of SaraSolo Productions.
And I'm Blake Walton, co-founder and managing director of SaraSolo Productions.
Um, Hi, I'm Huck Walton. I am co-founder of Accidental Jacket Entertainment over here in Burbank, California. I'm a performer, writer, and filmmaker.
I'm Dennis McSorely. I'm an actor and a storyteller. That's it.
Where are you?
Where am I? I'm in Burlington, Vermont, which is, almost Canada.
Hi, I'm Eileen Earnest. I am in Cincinnati, Ohio. I am an actor, improviser, and jack of all trades.
I'm Gabe Ortiz. I'm in Ellenton, Florida, and I am an actor, a vice principal, an educator, and a playwright.
Hi there, my name's Stevie Coyle. I'm in Lafayette, California, just 20 miles due east and only slightly north of San Francisco. I'm a musician and a shop owner.
And a great storyteller.
Well, I thought it was great fun. What were the notices? Did folks enjoy it by and large?
We have a lot of quotes.
Yeah, one woman who's a local here, Carolyn Michael Gabriel.
Yes.
She said, this solo really works for this kind of online stuff. She said, it's really clear. You guys did a great job with this. And so even when you go back to doing live, you also have to keep this element because it's, and I've heard that from several people, but that's in print. So yeah, I think overall we did really well considering it's a smaller little festival.
We did. We had a really nice audience. It's almost as big as it was in fall. And I'm saying that because we still primarily have audience from Sarasota area.
Yeah, isn't that funny?
I'm trying to think what else we can tell you about the function of everything. It really became mom and pop and son.
It was a family affair.
It was the three of us completely.
Are you talking about the last?
I'm talking about the last festival.
Yeah.
That we looked around and noticed, oh yeah, this is something we can do ourselves now, which means the overhead is really small. It's really great, and hopefully we'll do this.
And Huck helped us set up so much of the stuff in the fall, so it's just really easy to just plug things back in again and move it.
So I did a podcast this morning, and one of the questions at the end of the podcast was how, if they want to promote it, will they still be able to buy tickets? And I think you answered that question. Yeah. Can they share their link? If we say with donation, it'll be available for how long for people?
The best answer to that would be to contact us. We can give out our email address is really simple. You all have that too. It's sarasoloorg@gmail.com. And if that's true, then we can work out something with them. So.
But you have these pieces, which is great. And so you can use them for either other festivals or auditions or whatever you want. You got them now. I mean, I'm discovering as the artistic director, people want to now submit. We usually invite people. Submit stuff, and I go, well, do you have a video?
Well, of course, they all have them because they've made
don't.
them.
I'm telling what people are personally have.
Right.
And but some people are old school. They want, I got a DVD. And I said, can you? No, we don't. That world we don't do that world anymore. That world.
Somebody, I discovered something I didn't know yet the other day. Laura was sent just recently sent a Secret Santa, and it was a CD, and we didn't know we couldn't play a CD. Like, we spent like 2 days trying to figure out how we could play a CD, and we don't have any ROMs. Our players are Blu-ray, and we don't. Nothing played a CD. Like,
you don't have.
We didn't know our cars didn't either. We went out to both our cars.
Cars don't either.
Discovered they didn't have CD players in them. Like, we didn't even know. We went to our friend's house. They didn't have anything for it. Their cars didn't either. Like, we had to write them back and say, you're gonna have to whatever you burn this.
There we go. Yeah.
We got a cross-link player that has a DVD in it.
Oh.
Huck, you may have only young friends because my car still has a player in it.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, it's so. But I mean, they'd stop making them in cars too. So if you have a car after a certain year, then
Yeah.
Right.
Funny.
Really
you
did,
have
huh?
to ask for a CD player in your
Well, that's,
car.
I
Yeah.
got the newest HP Inspiron laptop, and they were like, "Oh, and here's your DVD player."
Yes. Yes.
To
I have
come
one too.
attached to it.
Yeah, you can buy one.
Yeah.
Why is it in here?
I have one for.
You don't need
Same
those
with,
anymore.
same with Apple. There's nothing.
Yeah.
You've got like 2 little holes in the side where you have to extra this or that and dung.
Yeah.
Right.
It's a different
Yep.
universe, and we just have to get used to it.
I was
I
like,
mean-
these are clearly made by men because women don't like getting stuffed that many times in a day.
Leave that in, please.
All right, Carol. All
I
right.
well,
Quote unquote.
I'm
Well.
cool. I'm fine with it because, you know, unlike LPs, like CDs don't add anything. If anything, they're compressed more. I mean, I can get better files online, you know, that aren't compressed to CDs. So I'm kind of good riddance with it. Like it's not a format that adds to music or adds anything to
Well,
the,
some people
you know what I
still-
mean?
Yeah, some people still like vinyl. You know, they're
Well, that's different.
Vinyl's
Vinyl's a whole different thing. Vinyl's
Yeah.
great. Vinyl's an analog audio, you know.
I tried to tell you kids a long time ago. I tried to tell you vinyl.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think what you guys did is exceptional. I mean, what to put it on yourself, like Eileen was saying the other day, is entirely not a part of a skill set that is, you know, that should be part of your skill set,
It
you know,
is
before
now.
this year.
Yeah.
And people discovering how they can do that. I mean, I think it's all really great. And on top of that too, if there are any holdbacks, I think this proves that the art is paramount in this, you know, that there are levels of quality, not just this festival, but the last festival too. There are varying qualities of what your people were able to put together, and
Sure.
it didn't seem to have a great effect on people's reaction to the
No.
piece,
Yeah.
which is really telling as well. I mean, I'm one to say, you know, if you can, you should, you know, I mean, sure, explore the visual element and make something that is pristine, and that's great. But I think at this level too, I mean, the stuff that we're planning to put on this year should be Netflix quality. But those are also stages of development too. That's
Development,
being
yeah.
off Broadway or being on Broadway or, you know, whatever else a piece is doing, you know, at the stage that it's at.
You know, I think the other component to that is with it recorded, it's going to be so easy for people to say, well, give me the link and let us play it for this. Well,
Right.
no, you got to pay for it.
You have to
Yeah.
pay for it.
You know,
Yep.
everyone worked really hard and put time
Yeah.
and effort and
It's your play. It's your project.
Right.
You don't have to just give that for free unless it's like you want to give it to your uncle. But otherwise,
Right.
that's your piece. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's not like
Value
licensing
for
a
value.
song which can support another project. This is the project,
Right.
regardless of what
Yeah, that's
form
right.
it's taking here.
if it was taking place in Sarasota, it would be over, and you would have to wait to the next theater that it was at. But
Mhm.
you know, I think absolutely, if you know, you could do a pay-per-view situation where if anyone where they're supporting me and they're supporting Sarasolo at the same time for the work that you guys are doing.
I think that's great.
Yeah.
And Job Site Theater is doing that exclusively, really, with all of their. They taped out beautifully on stage when they were able to do that, and they are actually selling that as you can rent it or
You can
buy
rent
it
it or
for
buy it.
forever.
You can rent the show or you can buy it.
I don't know how they're doing that. It's an equity production. I don't know how they're able to, but clearly they are.
Huck,
So
do you have any ideas about that with all the damn unions right now? How they're
I'm not familiar with the situation. Can you explain it to me a little bit more?
It was an equity production that was filmed on stage, so it comes under all the equity SAG-AFTRA concerns that have come up.
Well, there are no concerns anymore.
Oh, there are. Okay.
No, 2 months ago, after 3 months of after 6 months of battling, Equity agreed to SAG-AFTRA's bylaws, and they created a contract that's good through December 21st this year, and that can be expanded on. But basically, giving full equity rights to production if it was intending to be a stage piece, if it's filmed.
Okay.
So basically, whatever would be the equity rule in that production, exist under that contract
Okay.
for filming.
Okay.
But I would be curious because there's also the royalty deadline. So like if you purchased, like we have 6 performances, those 6 performances streaming can stream until XYZ date. But you're saying that job site said you could buy the production?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Now that's what we found interesting. You could
See-
rent it or you could buy it.
That might come under that might that might not last. I'm curious to see. People might be like, "Can we do this?" And then some unions have to be like,
they might find-
"No,
No,
no, you can't do that."
Yeah.
Because, for instance, you're actually not allowed to sell a production after that. These are streaming laws. There are
Right.
streaming rules
Right.
contractually. So that's the only reason it
There's a
can stay under
deadline. There's an
equity.
expiration date.
Yeah, there's an
there.
expiration date.
Well, and maybe
Uh,
there is an expiration date. I'll have to
right.
look at the thing. You
So-
know,
It's
a certain amount of
SAG-AFTRA
So-
after that, and that's a whole
Yeah.
other ordeal.
Yeah.
So when we think about Gabe's piece, for instance, it was written initially to be staged, but it wasn't. What we have now is a filmed version of something.
Well,
Would that come under that?
and
kind
Eileen
of
too, because Eileen
deal?
hadn't done.
Film.
Yeah, right.
Well, here's where it also gets
Film.
really interesting, because if it is SAG-AFTRA, then you also get new media contracts.
Oh.
So that also depends, and they are all sister unions,
Right.
but what's to say, for example, and I don't mind if you say this out loud, because I'm not trying to be sneaky here, I'm literally just talking about it, but what's the difference between somebody's vlog and someone's filmed one-person show? You know,
Exactly.
when does that delineation pay off? Like where does that happen? Because it can be very performative. I mean, if you do like a video essay, I mean, that is right up against what a one-person show is if you're filming it. It could, that your artistic interpretation of material. So I think a lot of this stuff, I think it kind of falls into the same kind of production complacency that you see anyway before all this happened with
Right.
new media and stage productions. But I'm really curious to see what people will take very seriously and what they won't.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Things that make a lot of money. They'll be
Things that
very-
make a lot of money. Money's always the line. How many zeros? It's the amount of
See, you
zeros.
started to say something and we overrode you.
Yeah.
You had your hand up and you started to say something. When you sell your music, now do you sell it as files or how do you do it now?
It's, nowadays, for whatever reason, when I recorded my album and sent it off to CD Baby to distribute, to be
Right.
kind of the prime distributor,
Mhm.
they sold their copies. They would say, well, every once in a while, we're out of copies, we're getting low, send us more copies. Then it went to digital format, where they're going to digitize it as well, and we'll sell those for you. And then all of a sudden, they just said, to hell with it. We're giving it to everybody. We'll get you set up with Spotify, we'll get you set up with YouTube, we'll get you set up with all the rest, which is tiny, minimal, infinitesimally smaller income.
Yeah.
I don't think I've actually even seen a check yet from anybody for anything.
Luckily,
Yes, ma'am.
people
I
love old friends from Merrily, so every once in a while I get a check.
Yeah, good for you. There you go. Right.
Penny.
Yeah,
Pennies, I know. Isn't it shocking?
yeah.
There's a bar in LA in the Valley called Residuals, and it's
Where people
if you
throw
go,
their drinks on there.
yeah, if you go there with your residual check, you'll get a free drink.
Oh, really?
If it's under $1, sorry, if it's under $1,
That's fantastic. That's
I
just
can
wonderful.
I can actually do
Oh,
that with
a
night
lot
court.
of people.
Yeah.
I can actually do that
A
with
lot
night
of
court.
people.
You're
Yeah.
into
Oh,
the,
yeah.
I need a new
Time.
liver if that was true.
Yeah.
Here they are.
I know, right? Let's make it rain less than $1.
Drinks on me, everybody.
But night court is still paying though, right?
Oh, like
30 years later.
81 cents every once in
One
a while. Yeah.
line.
Yeah.
3 days work.
Yeah, that's
Well, I have to say, from a creative
Hey.
standpoint, CDs were like a miracle for
Yeah.
me because I travel all over the country. So being
Right.
able to create content, create, click tracks and then burn it and then take it with me.
Yeah.
Like that was amazing. So I'm mourning the loss of CDs.
I know, jeepers,
Yeah,
Handy
I'm-
enough.
I see. I hated like getting one that would like maybe didn't work, or I had to burn another one, or
Yeah.
You always
like for
forget, always forget.
I just love the drag and drop to like my phone. I mean, my phone's a CD player now. I
But
can
then
drag
if
and
you're
drop
listening
my,
to
like-
CDs, you can't use your phone. Having separate units,
Yeah.
I like that.
We'll have a. I have a.
Follow
I have a
form.
fix. I have a fix for that. We'll talk about it.
Dennis, how are you doing?
I'm fine.
Great.
Yeah.
I'm fine. I have an 8-track player in case you want to know.
Oh man, do you though? That's great.
Clunk, clunk, clunk.
Oh,
I
talk
thought that was
about
part
it.
of the lyrics of a lot of songs. It was clunk.
talk about a middle
You had
child of
to- You had
history.
to listen to 7 songs to get to the one you liked. There's no way to go find it. Yeah.
And you had to pay for 8 songs to get to the one you like.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You know that. Not to. What?
No, I'm just going. Yeah.
No, Eileen was gonna say something.
Oh well, I was gonna go on to a new topic, but if you wanted to,
Ooh,
add
let's,
something.
oh,
Oh,
let's
we
go on to
probably
the new
should.
topic.
All I was gonna say was I do miss, before we move on, that I do miss what CDs did the same thing that LPs did, which is made me discover a lot more music, because I would listen to the radio, I'd hear a song from someone I like, it would require me to, then I'd buy the CD or LP or whatever, and then I'd do a pass of the CD. I don't know if anyone else does this, and then like a couple would stick out to me a little bit, but by like the third or fourth time I listened to the whole album, some of my favorite songs were not even the one I heard on the radio. It was these other songs that were on
Yeah.
there, and I think this sort of like cherry picking, grabbing a song you like from the radio really hurts the intimacy of music discovery.
Good point.
Yeah.
Also, if you're talking about a CD being set up with a story or with a
A narrative.
a narrative,
Right.
Right.
then that's too bad. The most beautiful thing was to sit down with a record and just close your eyes
Yeah.
and go through it.
Right.
Um,
That was the whole idea of my CD is it's a story. It's a fellow goes to the carnival and has a transformative experience and meets all these people along the way. And the original version, I kind of screwed up by putting it on CD and not doing vinyl. It was too early for vinyl. It was 10, 11, 12 years ago. Kind of too early for that. But the original idea was even better, Blake, I think, was sitting down, putting on the album, and then having a booklet to look at
oh God, yeah.
with some artwork to summon some imagery for
Oh,
you.
I grew
Oh,
up.
It didn't
I
really
do miss
work in the
that.
4x4 format, of a CD. It didn't work quite as well.
Just the little things too, taking the saran wrap and like
Yeah.
rubbing against the side of a table and ripping it off, and you know,
Sometimes, especially with musical theater, that liner notes were my only connection.
Yeah,
Yeah.
indeed.
I got to write liner notes for Peg
In London.
Hey,
I only
terrific.
had 2 jobs when I was there. One was to write this incredible souvenir playbill program, a whole story about
Oh,
the original
fantastic.
Peg in My Heart, and then I wrote the liner notes for Peg.
Well, he had 3. It's like be my
Right.
man and
Yeah, I
play
had-
with me.
I had to be
my
Miss-
playmate.
and be Mr. Morrison. That was a good job.
Anyway, Eileen, you wanted
Yeah.
to change the topic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is lovely. But in speaking about new technology, specifically like filming our pieces, my videographer Ted watched the show, obviously, and he was like, "I have some thoughts. Let's go back in. Let's do it."
wow.
Do it.
And so I was like, "Oh yeah, absolutely." So we're gonna reshoot. He's gonna put up the 3 cameras again. But he's like, "Okay, but I had a better idea for the lighting here." And so it's
It's great.
it's becoming a new piece because
Cool.
we have this record of
Okay,
great.
well-
And
We'll have to encore it then. Seriously,
that's
we'll
really
encore it.
cool.
That was, and I'm curious to see what you think, Eileen, because there were a few ways of filming it, and for you as well, Dennis. And one of the things that I had considered is, do I want to film it from a distance, 3 cameras, look like I'm talking to an audience, or do I want to talk directly? And I decided to try to marry the 2 mediums. When you go to the theater, you feel, and I said this in one of the talkbacks, you feel present, you feel like they're talking to you, you feel like you're involved. And then there's something that's sort of lost when you when you film theater and you don't really feel like you're a part of it if you're watching it online. And so I'm curious for you, what after basically what you just said, Eileen, what would you do differently based off of what you saw as the end result?
specifically for me, I think I will choreograph more. Like
Mm.
that we did a few days of rehearsal, just me at home in my house, And then I came to the theater and was actually in the space, and that changed a whole lot because it's the difference between being here on freaking Zoom and then, oh, there's 3 cameras. And we had made the intentional choice of, there were specific moments when I should look at the camera, look at the lens of the camera, but then the rest of the time the decision was made to look at the chairs as though I were in an audience setting.
Right.
And I still think that that's the right mode, because it's a great marrying of the two worlds. But I think we need to be more clear of what do we want the audience to see, because they are only getting this lens. And so with the multi-camera shots, like, kind of just, it was arbitrary. It was like, we don't know what the hell we're doing, let's figure it out.
Sure.
And now going back in, like, oh, we've graduated to sophomore year of the film. I feel like now we can be more like, oh, this is the moment that I want them to see the left side of my face, or this is the moment that I want.
Sure, that all counts. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Isn't that interesting too, that now we're already at a point, only about a year into this process, where we're starting to have taste. Like, we're starting to have a point of view as artists, and that's really fascinating. Because I was inspired when we were talking about Gabe's piece, that if regardless if I can talk him into coming out here or not, I was also thinking about the other work that we were doing too, and I tend to agree with you. There is no right or wrong way to film your piece, as long as you have a point of view, I feel like. But I'm really interested in, when we do musicals, I like to compare it to Shakespeare, because the verse and prose of Shakespeare is essentially what happens emotionally with musical theater. It's, getting to a point where it needs to be sung, and then some people will even say, then you get to a point where it has to be danced. You have to dance, and but regardless, there is something really beautiful about the poetry of the rafters and the orchestra. And I also like the idea with filming too. There's something interesting about when the camera's perspective is catching what they're doing, and then when you address the camera directly. And so I'm actually really interested in filming some work where there's a very particular reason why you are either addressing the camera so they feel part of what you're doing, or it's capturing what you're doing. And to me, it's that same kind of sensibility of prose and verse in a piece.
Yeah,
regardless of what kind of piece it is.
I'm in agreement with that. And what I liked about Eileen's piece and Dennis's piece is that it still felt theatrical, whereas in my piece, I made an attempt to talk directly to the camera, and I filmed it all in a chair, and my videographer was able to make it look like I was it was being filmed with multiple cameras. But I still for my piece, I still feel like I missed a sense of the theatrical, and I keep going back to Jay's question: do you feel like this is theater? Because in my piece, it started to feel almost documentary, and so I didn't. I still don't know the answer to it. I think it can be both, because there is something that's lost when it's the camera at a distance, and I miss that immediacy of a Zoom call where you feel like when you're looking in the camera, they're staring into my soul. But at the same time, maybe more the theatrical can be involved. And after we filmed it, Mike said, I'd like to go back knowing what we know and learning what we've learned, and film again and see what happens.
I'm going to send all of you, and I think I already sent it to Huck. I don't know if he had a chance to see it. We saw someone sent us an old taping of Ian McKellen talking about Shakespeare, and he was a young man. Actually, 2 things, but the one was it was like a little one-man show. It must have been about 40 minutes long.
I think I might have seen it anyway.
Shakespeare and performing things. It was so beautifully done. And his use of being theatrical, because he did have an audience, but where there were times where he could go right into the camera.
Oh, I haven't seen this. Oh, that's really great.
Oh.
That'd be exactly what I was talking about.
And McKellen is brilliant with his physicality. He becomes a dancer at times. He is so aware, and he talks about his and I'll send both of them.
Yeah.
I'll send both of them. It's a wonderful thing for all actors to watch.
Yeah, I love to
It
see
is
that.
entertaining and beautiful. But when I looked at it, I thought, oh my God, this is so what we're doing right now. But it was
Mhm.
filmed with a live audience, and I thought, God, this is so cool.
And this discussion is happening everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
BroadwayWorld.com and I think New York Times both had articles about what is this new thing.
Just happening to actors.
That it is theater but not, and they're trying to define it in some way. It's everything we've all talked about along this.
It's an art form being born.
Yeah, I mean, I'm
art
enthralled by
form.
the philosophy
Right.
right now. Like, we had such a lazy definition of what was film and theater because it was
Right.
just so easy to
Yeah.
say. It was such an easy delineation to make, and the philosophy is just enthralling. I'm really, you hope from any devastation. There's always that phoenix from the fire, and unfortunately, that is where we make our biggest leaps, is when we are limited.
Well,
Right.
Dennis in one of his talkbacks talked about that challenge of you're doing theater, but you have to be cognizant of this new medium, this camera in front of you. And so there's a sort of expressiveness that I miss being in the theater and that I missed in my piece because I was just confined to the frame. Whereas there was more of an expressiveness in Eileen's and Dennis's piece because it was so open. But again, I think there's a marrying of the two that if done right can really
It's exciting.
it
really
can
exciting.
You
Yeah.
remind me,
figure out that formula.
we did this weird, wonderful art installation, poetry
Yesterday.
reading thing yesterday that was on Instagram Live.
Well, it's
and
actually being moved over to YouTube.
You'll be able to see it on
you.
YouTube. We went into a gallery, an installation, and wrote pieces based on some of the artwork, and then a week later, last night, performed it alone in this gallery.
No audience, yeah.
So we were working with 3 Booker High students, and one was filming, and so. And we did it in one take. She flowed around the room, and we choreographed where we were going with each piece, and she would zoom in on each.
It's nice and raw. It's really raw,
we did
but
this
fun. Yeah,
wonderful strain. But I kept saying to Annie, I'm so uncomfortable. This is so odd, because I was oral interpretation minor in college. I have no problem speaking poetry, and yet here's this camera right with you and a ring light, and you're finding an intimacy, but you're not, and the room is ringing, and you're aware of all these things going on in other people. But I just realized we took a form that we would have done. We planned to do it live, and we planned to do it with an audience when we first were devising
and outside of
this
the place, it was
long
open,
ago.
and they'd be our masks, and one at a time could go up and take our mask off.
So this is what it became.
Yeah.
But there was something else. Oh shoot, I don't know.
But
Blake, what you were just saying makes me
Oh,
think
but
of- Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead,
It's the
Steve.
idea that we have to learn. It's another kind of acting too, not only just film acting, because that, to me, that's easy. You do the stuff, they pick it up on you, and you're there. You just have to be good.
This is different.
and-
It is a different.
You know it's not film, and you know it's not television, and you know it's not theater. It's
a new
something
thing.
else.
It's a new
God.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's really exciting.
possibilities.
but everybody watching has seen television, movies,
Right.
commercials. So they
Not
don't
so
think,
different from the viewer.
they don't think, this is a stage guy
Yeah.
who doesn't know what he's doing, so he just got a camera filming this. They're like, this is bad television.
Yeah,
That's what I found out. It was like me. I was just impulsive. I had a guy who would film me for free.
yeah.
He didn't even know the piece, and I did what you saw. Now, of course, I need a director now, and I need what Eileen. I mean, even before you were talking about this, I want to do this over again,
Yes.
This-
knowing what I learned, and that is, everything about stopping and waiting and picking pieces in there where I should be closer to the camera, where you want it to back up, where, and by the way, you're talking about Ian McKellen. if anyone is interested, Michael Caine on YouTube has 3 workshops on acting for the camera that will blow your mind.
Really?
He has a book too, but he talks a lot about where your eye belongs and all these other things on
Right.
film. And it's the opposite of, I mean, you don't, on stage, you need volume. The balcony has to hear you. In a camera, you don't.
Mhm.
You can go very quiet. You could use like almost a hushed Clint Eastwood voice and you're still picked up because the mic is there. I didn't have that in mind. Like the mic was back over there, but
and it also picks up everything else.
I think it's
But I would, I'm sorry. I would like a combination of both, though. You know?
Yeah.
I want to be able to be
And there are
the largeness.
Yeah, I mean, I think there are hybrids that can come from combining really particular techniques together to make that happen. In theater, it's really common in programs to have a combination of tech and theater at the same time, and I obviously that's a great idea. I don't see it as much with film, which is unfortunate because the amount. The flags, the tells of an actor with less experience is really clear when you're working sound or camera department. And it makes zero sense for a professional actor to not be cognizant of what those things are doing to them, what light is doing to them,
Right.
what sound is doing to them. And the first thing, because I do professional audio on sets, and the first thing I could tell when there'll be a couple people on set, and some of them have worked a lot more than others. And the first one is they don't know what the mic is doing to them. They don't. They are usually too loud.
Sorry.
They're usually
I was very flippant, Huck, about my comment about with film you just do it and it's there and it picks it up. And this is from someone
very
who
technical art.
Who from the beginning knew that I had to know all those things. And so so to me now they're natural. So what I'm saying is when I walk on a set, I'm very aware that, this is great. I finally figured out, after a couple sound people who were way out of line, but saying, could you just be a little quieter with that?
Well, also placement too.
Stage acting.
Yeah. Well, both camera and mic, I mean, 90% of your shots are like, even if this isn't your shot, this is your head.
Right.
Like this is wrong. Like if you're talking, you know what I mean? And people don't think about that. Like the amount that you have to be aware of in your body and what you're in every form. At the same time that you're trying to give your best performance is outstanding.
I'm always asking, what's my frame here?
Right.
How much? What of this are you going to see?
Well,
where am I?
Translate to good actors on stage understanding what we call stage.
And that's the same thing.
Stage picture.
Where are you?
A good actor understands stage picture, and it makes the director's job a hell of a lot easier when they understand that. It's like you feel like the actor is in the director's head.
Right.
They get
there you are. The stage picture is something that is staged for a person sitting still in an audience.
Right.
Yeah.
Whereas here the opportunity is the viewer can move in close. The viewer can move around to one side or the other. How many cameras you have, what angle is shot. The viewer is suddenly moving instead of the performer, or in addition to the performer. So, certainly some forms of theater do that, where you can wander where you want and see what you want. But the standard format, of course, is sitting in a chair and watching the entire performance from one angle. And it's up to the actor, of course, to the performer to provide face to the house, to work the lights, to realize when the picture comes down, when to kind of things iris down, either to a spotlight or focus on stage because of other actors, all of that happening. But in this case, I think the odd thing, and of course I didn't address it at all in my piece. Mine was just guy with a guitar.
Yeah.
It's a house concert, baby.
And it worked. Yeah.
It's just that static shot, because the person watching is sitting in their chair watching the performer. But this is a whole kind of cool and new, different thing.
And I also know what I don't want is I don't want to feel like it's a pirated version of a performance that somebody pulls out their cell phone in the audience and is recording you. I don't want that sense when I'm either performing myself or when I'm watching someone else's performance. I want it to.
You want the camera to be a character. Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
You want to mean it. You want to mean it.
You want them to be an observation, a point of view. Yeah, absolutely. We filmed 2 things that are going to come out later this year that are more professional than the full professional I'd gambit of what we're planning to run over here. And they've been incredibly educational, even with the amount of experience that the teams have in their own right, both on stage and film. The hybrid, this amphibian form, is an entirely different ballgame. And one of the things we discovered is that everyone's just working a lot harder, everybody, because what we're hopefully pulling off is the sense that this camera is sort of following somebody in what is otherwise a stage performance. But really what's happening is that both the camera team and the actor are being incredibly cognizant of very, very particular movements, very particular choreography. There's this great YouTube video. We're just gonna we should just do a list of YouTube videos after this.
That's a good idea.
Things that we did. But there's this wonderful video of Fred Astaire doing there's a number he's done in two. I can't remember which piece it is. There's a number he did in two different filmings, the same number. It'll come to me. I'll find the video. But somebody put them side by side, and they are identical. Like the two, and they're filmed at different times,
Right.
and identical in movement. Yeah. And it's just that idea of like the amount of prep that went into that number, that it is literally like, because it was filmed, so it wasn't just about like having the flair and but like being able to pull off the move in a very particular way is a different kind of use of your brain, I feel like. And that's the kind of stuff we're discovering. We're discovering that like it takes walking over here and turning and also having that like camera do the same thing and getting in someone's face. And you know what, it seems like almost the more chaotic it looks, the more precise it has to be.
Yeah.
And
oh yeah,
it's fascinating.
It's great that you brought that up though, Huck, because I think that we're talking about, oh, this is a new thing, but I spent a lot of my childhood watching those big budget MGM musicals where they were like, all of the women are coming out of the swimming pool and we see it from above and then we see it from the side. And they did that same scene like 20 times, but they did it all the way through. Like it wasn't like a cut shot. It wasn't like, hey guys, we're going to start at the end and then we're going to, nope. They were like, great, go back to the top. We got to do it again.
Back to one, baby.
Back to one.
It is kind of reaching back into the past and going, this is
true.
We're gonna do. But we don't have that budget.
Right.
Yeah.
Dennis, you remind me of something, and I don't know what this all means, but we're talking about resetting a place. Let's think about Box of Squirrels, for instance. One thing I said about you, and it keeps coming back and haunting me, is that you, as an actor, always have a sense of space or placement where you are. There's always a sense of
place, yes.
where you are, and I think that when you find, I think the director of this piece, if you were to refilm it in some form, I think the director of this piece should recognize that about you. And fill you in the way that Michael and Bob did with Gabe, in that they gave him the support he needed visually to tell us where he was. And I think the same thing is true about you, but you very specifically are the are what tells them. You're the sign of what that is. I still don't know what any of this means, but
neither do I. But I'm writing it down. It sounds very deep.
No, really. Whoever it is, they're gonna pick up.
I'll tell this Dennis guy all about it.
Yeah, yeah. Dennis, I am interested in hearing more about the learning process for this, because I feel like your piece more than anything was very no BS. Like here is. It requires the audience to completely pay attention to the material and what you do with that material. And I'm curious, like, and it worked. It worked great, you know. So that's a fascinating dichotomy with the other pieces that put a lot of creative attention into like how it was being filmed. And I'm curious I would like to hear even more about what your experience was with that, and what, if anything, you would change in the future, or just like what were those things that you learned in particular?
What do you mean by the beginning part? Like, how did the piece? That's just all true stories of me. That's all. I just piece together.
Sorry, let me. What I need to say is, I'm speaking just to, because obviously all that is put together very skillfully and precisely. Just like if you were to have to do more of your piece in this format, what would you like to see in the future with your pieces?
Oh, it would be exactly what the other two of my friends did here, Gabe and that is have the camera and the director know when to come in close, when to back up, when to come over to this side because now I'm talking to somebody else, even to turn. Yeah, I mean all of the what you might call you were calling point of view. I was completely a rookie and completely just flying by the seat of my pants, just saying that, you know, I had a cinematographer who was in a place we were dubbing a film. He stayed. My friend said, he'll stay and film your thing. You don't owe me any money. I said, I'm in. And because I have to get this stuff to Blake. This is me being honest. There was no like, oh, wow, you know. And so I was afraid. I was nervous doing it because I knew I felt that this is like I'm on the wire and I don't know, I can't go back. I'm out here now, and you saw what you saw. I guess I pulled something off, but that's just the way the piece is. But visually, yeah, it would be completely different.
I would remember that though. I would remember that. There's something about Gabe. You did your piece primarily in one shot.
One shot. It was actually two. I filmed it all the way through, and then I said the wrong names in two monologues, so I had to go back and refilm them.
And Stevie, you did yours in one shot.
Yeah.
Virtually, you did yours in one shot with a couple different cameras, so that picked up. When I did my piece, Leading Men, last fall, we did it in one shot with two stops.
But I think both of them rehearsed it with the camera person. See, I didn't do that. I've done that show.
I didn't either.
15 times, but I've never had a video.
Yeah.
I'm really glad it turned out that way because I think this is a great experiment in this festival because I had no problem following your piece. I had no problem having an emotional reaction. I had no problem doing any of that stuff. And it's weird to say that is enough and to also appreciate what can go into that production.
Yes.
But I loved having the opportunity to see your piece that raw. Because it is nice to be reminded that it speaks for itself too.
I go to people's homes and do it if they want. I'll come to your living room.
And you did. I love it. There's something about that energy though too. That's what I was talking about.
And also, you know, you are so, and I mean this lovingly, you're so reminding me of a wonderful Spalding Gray. You know, you have that wonderful sense of storytelling. It's your unique way, but that also, you know, and he had to figure out how to film his solo pieces too, you know, and he did it fairly successfully.
You know, I wish I had access to Stevie, Eileen, and Dennis through this process because it sounds like we were all going through the same thing. I kept calling up Annie and Blake saying, you know, did Eileen turn in her piece yet? Has Dennis submitted
it's like a
yet?
homework assignment.
Am I the only one 3 days late? You know, I just kept. And I'm thinking, like,
you're doing great.
How are they doing this? How are they getting it done? And we were all really dealing with the same insecurities of how am I going to get
to be
filmed?
fair,
Is it worth $25? That's what I kept thinking. Is it worth it?
But to be fair, there was no reason why you guys couldn't. You've all had each other's emails.
Well, you know, Gabe, I'm
I
glad you said that though.
Like
that's a really good point you made because I maybe this is something the festival does in the future. This is part of that wonderful growth. Is that with the school systems, with the other program, they do have that access to each other. All of them know each other very well. Like the Booker program, for example, they know each other very well. A lot of them had helped each other out with their pieces because of that access that they had. And maybe the professional version, these festivals should have that same, because I think there's something great about having that liaison, having the time to meet these people. It can be very awkward otherwise, and I think that might be a really fun thing to see next time is to kind of bring people together from the get-go.
Thanks for bringing that up because, you know, the reason that Blake and I put this whole idea of SaraSolo to begin was we wanted to have a retreat for solo artists to come together and work on the material with the safety net of other solo artists. To do that. I mean, this is absolutely what we can do. There's no.
And this is a learning curve for all of us as we figure out this new art form.
Yeah. It could affect it along the way.
Insecurities. Hey, Dennis, I had a question for you that I didn't get to ask on the night of the performance, but towards the very end, you showed actual pictures of your students. Was there any concern by that? And you told very, personal things about their experience. Did you get the permission? Was there any sort of concern about that? Was there, what was your?
I actually, the answer is no. I did not look them up. That's the class photo from that first class. That's the school picture.
Mhm.
Mitch Feldman is still my friend, the guy from the interview who answered all the questions, who wound up being the co-teacher with me in that room. But no, I did not. And I'm waiting for the attorneys of Darryl, Larry Williams at the
Well, they're
command.
probably in jail anyway. It doesn't matter.
No. That's no. I have not fought, but I mean, Richard Dean, the guy that shows up on the escalator, is a real guy. Ronaldo's a real guy. I did not use fictitious names, which could be a problem. I've gotten in some hot water with my ex-wife for doing another piece, and she still hates me. It's 30 years from the divorce, but
Well, comedians
somehow,
do it all the time.
well, because I mentioned Kathy in the piece, and she said, I don't want my name brought into us. And she's the only Kathy in the United States right now, so everybody knows who she is.
All Kathy's are
I'm
gone.
being a wise ass, but it affects her because of what happened to us.
Did
So,
you explain to her that the Kathy spelling of your character is different from her spelling?
no, it doesn't matter. She
Right.
just thinks I've delved into, I'm bringing our life out there, and it's not good. So I have to
Tell her to
respect.
grow up.
Oh.
That's the challenge of a.
That's what everybody else has said, but it's not. I'll be careful. But to your point, I don't know. I don't know about the rule because I questioned myself a little bit, but I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Should I have done that or not? I don't think those fellows would have minded the relationship we had. I'll say that. I think they would have said it's okay to use it, although all of them are probably in their 40s now.
Yeah.
Well, to some extent, because I'm doing the same thing, and
Yeah.
and,
Okay.
I,
Okay. I won't
and
believe
and
it.
I didn't, it's my story, my journey.
Yeah.
Even though there's other people that are involved in this, but I felt the need to, what I did in my piece was I combined 2 or 3 different characters, and
Yeah.
I changed names, and I didn't have to do that, but I wasn't sure of the legalities of that, and even though it was my experience and my point of view. So I just wondered what it is that you went through as a solo artist to make the choices to use real names and real pictures and so forth.
This is another great example. Go ahead. Sorry,
Yeah.
Dennis.
It was just, I think it was so vivid in my memory and who they really were. They're still sticking with me that I just kept them like that. And I was going to say something else about, well, not that they wouldn't mind, but if it's almost like when Vanilla Ice did Under Pressure and Queen didn't pay any attention to it. When the record went #1, they gave him a phone call and said, by the way, dude, that's our song. And, I know that Kitty Kelly has written biographies, memoirs have come out. People have put, I don't know where the license is on that. Personally, I guess if I got in trouble, I would fix it. But I didn't think that I was stepping on anybody or saying things about them.
My philosophy is you do it, and when somebody says blah blah blah, you go, "Oh, I didn't know." And until then, just keep going. I do Linda Love That Goes to Broadway, and I talk about persons with developmental disabilities.
Yeah.
I never say anyone's name though, and Linda is only her stage name, Linda Lovely. That's not her. That's her real name. And but I think it never occurred to me that I would have to worry about that. Partly because I got permission from the family to do it, Linda's piece. But no, I just never named anybody.
And leading man, it's all my family, but there's only one name.
And to extend that a little bit, which might be helpful for me, is Blake had told me privately that I didn't even need to show you the picture, and I could have just used first names.
Yeah.
And not the full name of each of those boys, because Ronaldo and Daryl and Larry and Nikki, just like Kathy, are names. and you don't know who they are. So if you didn't see the picture, I probably could have used the names. You wouldn't know if they were real or not.
Right.
The photograph, that class picture showed that we all were real.
Right.
It was such a powerful. It was such a powerful moment in your piece that I think it. You know, it's a right choice because it just brought it home.
Right.
But I was just, again, for my own work, I'm just, and I don't know what the right answer is. I don't know what Annie, you said, half.
I do know the answer, by the way.
I've been sitting
there.
I really know
the answer.
Right.
Huck legally knows the answer.
But Dennis, before the answer is, I need to say that I kind of changed my point of view on that after seeing it a couple times. Because just so you all know, I was talking to Dennis about how it kind of took me out of the story, because suddenly we were looking at a picture of folk, and when I first saw it, I saw that picture either before the show or after the show, as Dennis pointed it out, and I saw them anyway when he was telling me. But this time around, I noticed your hands, and they were doing something very kind of special, and it was you holding the picture. Then I wanted you to turn it around and look at it, as we saw it once, but I wanted you to refer. I'm sorry, I'm talking director, but
you're hired.
But
oh, really?
It's not that I don't think you should, right now. It's not that I don't think you should ever use it, because I think it's a wonderful visual.
On stage, it's on an easel on the side. You don't even notice. The audience doesn't notice, and all of a sudden, I had it under a lamp on a piano, and then all of a sudden, I just go over and get it. And people weren't, because they were watching me and not anywhere around, like Gabe was mentioning. They were just looking in, and then all of a sudden, and then I left it in the lobby afterwards, and people would go, "Oh, so that's you?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm that guy." And I don't know what happened to them, but it's and that's where the title came from. The giveaway is that, and the poster is, affectionately, we were calling our kids squirrels in a box.
Right.
I mean, if you got a nice, gift wrap box and you opened it up and 5 squirrels came out, I don't know what you would think of the person who gave it to you, but they were the gift that was given to me. That's how I saw the whole thing.
Our cat would love it.
Well,
so Huck, you said you had a question.
Sure. Well, I mean, I can tell you the answer if you want.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the issue with legality in these situations is that it has a lot to do with legal precedent. You can make an argument in the court, and so it's really about just crossing your T's and dotting your I's in those situations. It's not, facts are not liable, so that's why you can make movies like Super Size Me, because the team was very careful to say only things that were true about the product. The legality issue that most people probably think of is that it's illegal to take someone's picture without their permission. If you're using a pre-existing picture that the person agreed to take, that's journalism. So you're allowed to do that. You're allowed to show a pre-existing picture someone without their permission legally. They can't come after you. If you had ties to the picture being taken and then showed it in another medium, that might come into issue. That could be an issue, and that could be a whole thing.
So
where did you get that picture? Where'd that come from?
What if it was like a yearbook picture, or like in that sense,
you're allowed to show a yearbook picture. That's why illegal. The police can show your yearbook or whatever it is if you're a missing person or whatever else it might be. The assumption is, and of course, again, you can go into a court and have some fancy lawyer argue otherwise, or have some legal precedent for it, but. But theoretically, you're saying, yes, this person knew that this picture was taken. It's in a yearbook. This was not taken without their permission. So some of that is a tiny bit gray. And obviously, if you want to be really careful, you can just, really separate yourself from that delineation. But legally speaking, I think that's what most people are concerned with. And again, the other issue you get into, of course, is if you make it known that you're speaking of a particular person, it can become liable as soon as you add your opinion of that person or any other kind of conjecture. Then it becomes an issue again. But
and Stevie, you never got into trouble with Gilligan's Island, have you?
I have not, strangely.
Good.
No, I don't know what you're talking about, but no. I
Are
have
the
not
brothers
been
still
contacted
alive?
by-
Well, that's a cover. So
So Eileen and Stevie, so it's a two-part question, one for Eileen, one for Stevie. I'm curious about your process in general of developing a one-person piece, what you go through as a solo artist. And Stevie, I'm wondering, I'm not too familiar with your work, so I'm wondering, have you ever performed a one-person show through your music, so that you're telling the story of your life in some kind of way through music?
I have not, only because I think perhaps would not be of interest.
That's so not true.
For no other reason than that. Whereas,
Not true.
I've done a bunch of stuff, but it's not. There's nothing earth-shaking or there's nothing cathartic about it. I don't think there would be any sense of. I don't think Aristotle would approve. Well, Annie, you have a right to your own
SaraSolo
opinion.
Festival does not approve of that response. We're interested.
Yeah,
We're taking back your academy.
that's right. I'm an Academy Award winner, for God's sake.
We're going to help you develop that one. Okay.
Well, here's where the story starts. I can start from here and tell the rest in 10 years. Yeah.
Yes.
right.
Mostly my shows are sitting down and playing music and yammering about what I've done, but I've never done really a show per se. It's mostly couched in a gig, a musical gig kind of thing. And more recently, with the demise of so many mid and smaller venues, much of the performers like myself have lots of background in music and band situations and whatnot, moving indoors into house concerts, which is where Annie and Annie and my brother Dave, that's where I was performing when Annie first saw me, was in a house concert, where it's really and truly a musical performance, an ostensibly musical comedy / performance in somebody's living room. And that's pretty much what I just opened up the camera and said, well, I'll do these bits, I'll put this song together with that one, and just kind of, once I get myself started, it just kind of flows out, and I just have to kind of keep an eye on the clock and keep it at 50-ish minutes. And
well, there's such a unique point of view, and there's a certain comedy that even my in-laws just so appreciated that. I'm curious into who you are and where that comedy developed and how you came into music. So I just think, Stevie, that there's something there that can be
I
told.
thoroughly agree with Gabe.
well,
Yeah,
thanks. All right, yeah.
And I'm curious about it,
Yeah, what's the tagline? I mean, everyone has a story in them, right? It's sort of the idea.
And your brother David speaks so highly, and he so loves to tell your story.
Oh, that's lovely. That's
so maybe
lovely.
he has to write it for you. I don't know, but he does with great,
maybe so.
with
Yeah,
great
yeah.
glee. He talks about how wonderful you are and all the things that you did that are so funny, and we get it by watching you perform. But yes, I could see it would be fun to have an evening of you doing what you do, but we get to hear all the about the
story of
this,
it.
about the
Yeah.
that, about the
I'm almost
seminary.
more interested because you said you don't have a story. Like, I think that's.
Yeah,
Well,
right.
no, I was being flippant. I was being.
I know you were.
at
I know,
least
of
half
course you
flippant
were.
there.
I know, but still,
But-
like there's.
So, Stevie,
sense
there's
of
a
humor.
story there. You got to tell it, man.
Yeah.
It's. I almost prefer to tell my. I've always preferred myself comedy that's oblique, that rather than being entirely self-referential, is somehow universal, with a lot of self-deprecation in there, because I was raised Catholic, and what else are you going to do when you're raised Catholic?
But it could
Except
be
it's
both.
self-deferential.
It could be
Yeah.
both. It could be about you, and it could be that, I do a lot of stories about me that are really pointed at that thing. It's
Yeah.
I think it's a starting point for these kinds of pieces. I mean, rarely do people go through like, here's my history, here's my autobiography of my life, and that, like, to me, it's usually a distillation of a single element or a certain experience of your life that can turn into a whole piece. And
True enough. It's bringing it around, bringing it home, as somebody said earlier. It's the business of bringing it home in a show. Whereas if I leave it kind of open-ended and, well, here's kind of this came about at this time in my life when I was doing this, and this came about in this time, and this time came about that. I'm just a little concerned because I'm talking about me, and I don't have a real point to make. in the same way.
But
that
I'm going
others-
That's one of my favorite parts when I go to a
right
concert.
now, Stevie. I'm going to challenge you because it doesn't have to be like a TED talk. You know, like, and then I did this, and at this
Yeah,
point,
yeah.
it can be theater, it can be poetically said, and you're a comedian, you have a sense of comedy. It's just what we're challenging you is to also then add those beautiful, funny other aspects of your life, which you sort of already kind of hint at anyway in what you do. We get a full sense of who Stevie Coyle is in what we had there, but you have all these amazing things that happen in your life that could become little jewels that lead into another song.
That's what I
Yeah,
say.
why the songs that you sing? I mean, one of my favorite parts of going to any concert is the personal aspect of it. It's when I go to a concert and the artist just sings, I feel robbed of some sense because I could just put it on my Alexa and listen.
Oh
to
yeah,
it.
absolutely.
You know, so there was that personal aspect, but you did it just enough that made me hungry for more. I wanted to know where you got this unique sense of humor, where you got your voice, where you got your talent, what your struggle was, what your challenge was. And I think that as you move forward, that would just be so interesting. I mean, I'm speaking selfishly, but so interesting to see where you develop that. And
Yeah, I see what you mean.
Yeah.
I really do.
Your
I think it's
concern
just
about not being enough is, you know, we say the phrase specificity is universality. You are enough, and it's finding a piece of your story that tells us something about you, and we'll get it.
And to
I
quote
think it's
Stevie,
the
the 45
thread.
minute mark is up because Eileen, I think, just ran to the bathroom.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
Well, there's,
No, should,
right.
we,
Oh,
you
she
know,
needed a
like,
crumpet.
your bladder.
we really probably
Steve,
end this.
Steve, I did see you in the on a clip in the Moisture Festival. You told me about that.
Oh yeah.
Seattle, and my friends live out there, and they never heard of it. And I'm going on the advocate side, devil's advocate. So I saw Steve in that venue. He was in some cement factory or something up in this
Yeah.
place.
It's a
And
brewery. Yeah.
that had, you know, that the dead bodies were in. But I think you're a musician who sits in between tuning up for the next song. You've told stories. You could tell stories in between. I mean, Bruce Springsteen got away with a Broadway show, $1,700 a ticket, telling stories all the way through from his E Street, you know, playing in bands. But he had 3 hours, you know, for
we're not
But it
saying
can be
you don't do
segment, it
what
can be
you do,
parts.
because we're doing, but we want, it would be fun to have one particular
got stuff.
special piece.
We're planting seeds, Stevie. We're planting seeds.
Planting
And I
seeds.
gotta be honest and say, I don't want to go to anything called the Moisture Festival.
It's a grabber. You got to admit, it's a grabber.
It is a grabber. It is a grabber.
Daddy.
But
It's a daddy.
It's not a daddy.
Say that Gabriel also asked Eileen a question, and I want to make sure
Yeah.
she gets a
And
chance.
it would
Well,
also
I came
put
back
the-
when we were writing Stevie's show, so I thought I'd
That's what I'm writing like a fiend.
yeah. So repeat your question.
So the question is, you know, I know the process, and even for Dennis as well, I know the process is so unique to all of us, to all solo artists. So what is the process that you go through from the birth of an idea to the product, the finished product?
Yeah, that's a fun question.
It is fun.
So I started my career as a musical theater kid, and I was, you know, I went and got my BFA and graduated and still had no idea who I was as a person. And so, you know, it was a long-standing situation of figuring out where am I most comfortable? Who am I? I need to sit in my point of view, like, and without judgment. And I think that is really great for everybody to try and do, because I think that, you know, we spend so much of our lives going, I don't know if this is right. What the hell else is everybody else doing? And so our lives become this entire creation of, well, I mimicked this thing and I mimicked it good, so I'll do that. And we spend so little time actually sitting in what makes me me. And so doing that for a few years was success and failure in scripted material. So they were like, no, we need you to look and sound like this because this is what they did on Broadway, or this is what they did in the show. So we need that. And I was like, I was tired of fitting into boxes because I never quite fit. I was never quite the ingenue enough. I was never quite the villain enough because I was my version of it. And then I was like, if I write it, then I get to decide. I get to be enough. And if I create it, then the only person's point of view that I have to tell is mine. So I think it kind of it was birthed from that idea of I'm enough.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And on the offshoot of that is, am I telling a relatable story? Am I telling a story where there are checkpoints of like, I see that. And even if they don't see it in the way that I see it, do they recognize themselves in that moment? Do they go, I would also crumble there? Ah, yes, I would absolutely laugh at that. That is a shared moment, and that delicious community of like, oh, we all have a reaction there. And even if it's not my reaction, you're like, yes, I feel it right here because I know that touches me in a way. And it could be as stupid as, I hate it when you leave your dish in the sink when I've just finished emptying the dishwasher. Everyone has a feeling. Everyone has that universal sizzle about that.
Yeah.
And you might be the person who's like, do people really get upset about that? Meanwhile, you're sitting next to the person who's like, we do.
Don't you think, I mean, in a way, like art is all confirmation. Like, I mean, because we are social beings. Like the moment of crying, the moment of laughter is that moment of recognition, right? And I think that can be such a powerful thing when you write your own song or you do your own theater piece, or is that there's no greater feeling than spilling your guts and having people go, me too. You know, I also feel that way, you know.
As long as it's universal, right?
As long as it's universal.
So it's not just a therapy counseling session.
Right.
As long as it's cathartic for the viewer, as long as you
Right.
feel like you are, yeah, exactly.
And I think if there's one moment that I miss the most in live theater, it's connecting with somebody at the exact moment that they feel the exact way that you do, at the exact intensity.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
And like you
Yeah.
see it and you connect
Yes.
with them and they're like, I am, yes, I feel that way about that thing exactly that much. And you're like,
Yeah.
So Eileen, how do you then separate, and again, it's the same question for Dennis, but how do you then separate, at what point in the process do you separate playwright from the actress?
Yeah.
Dennis, do you want to answer or you want me to vomit an answer?
Or actor, yeah.
No, he could be an actress.
Yeah.
Can we all?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know what I'm doing is actually acting as much as I am just walking you through all of these, but, yes, I have experience doing that, but I don't separate them. In other words, I know the through line of this thing. I know where it starts. And I don't know. I mean, and my work is not word for word scripted. That's the other thing. So there have been times when I've stayed in certain parts a little longer and added another memory that arrives, and it's changed just a little bit. And then I go through it because I am sort of aware of that clock. I mean, I was an altar boy and a teacher. The bell rang every 45 minutes, whether you were done making the grade, no homework, I had a test tomorrow. And I hated that because those moments Eileen was talking about often were occurring when the bell rang. And you had these kids all excited about something. All of a sudden they picked up their shit and walked out the door. And you were just standing there saying, we were just getting there. But I guess having a little experience standing in front of groups and saying things, which I had lots of that before I got into any kind of theater, has just helped to have a sort of presence. But I because it's so personal to me, when I tell pieces of it, I'm feeling it again.
Mhm.
So it's not like in a script where like, if I have to say, Eileen, I mean, I love you, but like, we can't be together, or Eileen, I love you, but like, we can't be together, I mean, and have
Not
somebody.
here, Dennis, not here.
How do you say that? How do you
Why
say that?
Eileen and not
Yeah.
Gabe?
And there've been directors that said, say that line the way you feel at that time. So that's what I'm doing. I'm saying, I guess, how I feel at that time. And I'm also trying to bring in these other voices of other people without mimicking them to tell you about them. So
is your piece scripted?
well, if I showed it to you, it would look like a chicken ran across a piece of paper. It's handwritten out, but it's got bubbles, and yes, it is. But
So your audience will literally not see the same show every night.
It's not literally word for word scripted. It's not that I left out to be or not to be.
I would be so anxious.
Yeah, Dennis, I think you just did a great job of expressing what a storyteller is. We were trying to talk about that at another event, and I think you
That
just
might be
nailed
what
it on
that
the
might
head.
be. Yeah,
Because by your definition, there's a skill set change, and I think is really fascinating. Gabe kind of pointed it out in the joke about how nervous that would make him, but like it is one thing, of course, to be practiced and to have a script and to be able to pull it off with the same amount of energy every night. But there's also a great skill in knowing how to work with the pliability of your story and what you should be telling in that moment and in that performance. And I think maybe that is that delineation we were looking for.
And there's something freeing about it as well.
Right.
I mean, I think Stevie to some extent does the same thing, right? I mean, it just it's off the cuff and whatever is moving you in the moment.
And the thing that's kind of missing from the thing that I did there is that I'll riff with the audience. There was no talk back, and I'll frequently just kind of riff if somebody pipes up with something or makes a comment or somebody laughs at an inappropriate place or an appropriate place. Kind of run with that for a while, and then come back.
I don't know why you didn't answer.
A little hard of hearing. Mr. Gower slapped me on that ear, and it's just never been the same since.
I do want to answer to that, Gabe. I because I both tell stories and I do, I create scripted work from other scripted work, but I never share a story that I can't let go of.
Right.
Like, because once it's out for public consumption, what people think about it is true. Like, and so as I'm creating something, if I'm like, oh, this is for me for a bit, then I sit with it. I sit with it until it's not for me anymore.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
Yeah.
I spend an exorbitant amount of time scripting, and I think with this piece, 6 months to a year, and I say, there's that span of time because I started playing with the idea a year ago, and I presented it to Annie. I think one night at a restaurant, I said, "This is what I'm thinking about." But for me, the words are so important, and the story is so important, and the arc of each character is so important that at one point, I think it was 2 weeks before this had to be submitted, I said, guys, listen, I told my director and the videographer, listen, I can't, I have to leave playwright behind. What we have on paper is what we have on paper. And now I just have to focus on on the story that I'm telling, because I think the vulnerability of the solo performer is the most important. And if I can't get out of my head, then the show is going to be a failure. And so I'm always just fascinated by people like Dennis and Stevie who can just, work off the cuff, because for me, I just become anxiety ridden and stutter. And, it's a whole different talent that I don't have.
And to be fair, that's the beauty of all of us, is that it's solo theater. It's uniquely what you do. And it may be uniquely, this particular piece is uniquely this way. And then you discover another way of doing it differently. But it's uniquely, bravely, and what's the other word I want to say? Uplifting.
Uplifting.
Even if it's depressing stories, there's an element of a solo artist gives something that's uplifting. We go home thinking and feeling about ourselves. That's profound.
It's like catharsis, yeah.
Catharsis, right.
Yep.
And you can get that from a play, but there's just something a little special about having that intimacy with a solo artist. Yes, how magnificent it is to be in front of an audience, but we can't have that now. And what I'm hearing from people is, even though we can't have that now, we're still being successful.
Because it's conversation,
Mm-hmm.
and people miss it. People miss a connection.
Yeah.
And this kind of connection is even more so.
Right.
Hey, Gabe, look at that.
That's what I was hoping you were grabbing.
What are you talking about off the cuff?
Oh yeah, that looks like you. That looks like a stand-up.
What the hell are you talking
It does.
about?
Yeah,
It
it
does.
looks
Yeah, they are.
like a stand-up comedian.
So
Oh,
what
there
I
it
do
is.
is
Oh, there you go. See? All
I
right.
run
Here.
through this whole thing. I
Yeah.
run it.
Oh my
I
Just
God.
hold
run
up
it.
pieces of paper now.
It's gonna be worth money someday, Dennis. Right
That's
there.
right. And I have nice handwriting. Somebody else said
Catholic.
to me, why don't you get someone else to do this? Why don't you have other actors do it instead of you? Or why don't you bring in another character or two and have them there? And then other people said, no, it's it's universal to people from things I've said, because you all went to school, you all had a dad, you all had these things, you all had a teacher. But because it's so uniquely personal to me, I can put in that feeling of it, because it's really a memory piece, you might call it.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
You know.
absolutely. Yeah.
And I'm curious, just for Eileen and Dennis, do you think there's a delineation between solo theater and documentary theater?
I don't know what you're talking about. What is he talking about? What is documentary theater? Come on, Huck. What is he talking about?
You know, I think documentary theater as being so vulnerable that you are revealing parts of your life, and you as a narrator are actually you as the human being and you as the performer, where Eileen is taking she's behind a character and being a character. Do you think solo theater is just one individual telling a story in many parts, or do you think there's a difference between solo theater and documentary theater?
Yes, there is, I imagine, because there's also storytellers who tell Native American tales, who tell Renaissance stories, who tell ghost stories, who tell genres of things. And then there's things like Eileen did, where she creates
A character.
something uniquely hers out of a writer that we know of. And Steve,
And she's not telling the story. She created a character.
yeah.
Who tells the story.
And there's
a
a
couple other stories.
fictional
Yeah.
narrative.
Right.
There's stand-up is another form.
Well, I've had people come up to me, one of the other, and say to me, who helped you write that? Or who is this guy? How did you get that material? I said, no, it's me. And they went, what? I mean, I'm particularly referring to Typhoon of Tenderness, which is a dark and disturbing story of my life of rise and fall and drug addiction and all sorts of stuff that is completely vulnerable. And I wasn't sure I should do that. And then it's turned out to be the piece that more people have said they know somebody who was in that predicament, or they have a family member. It turned out to be something that I didn't have to worry about, that by getting on stage and being authentic, it touched a lot of folks. But
So Annie, now you have your piece for the next SaraSolo Festival.
Absolutely. Now you're all gonna, and now that you're all going to be members of the Academy, we can continue doing stuff. I just noticed that we've been on for an hour and a half.
Oh,
Yeah.
meeting.
And
Really?
we have been meeting
Yeah.
in half an hour.
what's that? Keep on that meatloaf. Don't let your meatloaf.
Yeah, I know. I keep doing it.
Oh.
I am going to start crying now because I love you all so much.
This is great. Thank you so much, both of you, all of you.
We all.
And
been
I'm
friends
just
forever.
curious, Dennis, what's next for everyone? Dennis, what's next for you?
I'm putting together a thing called The Kid from Queens. And I've been doing storytelling in local venues with a group of people who just do that at little bars and places, just for shits and giggles, like a moth type thing. And I've got about 8 or 9 of those stories, and they're all like these. And I'm just going to connect them all together.
Good.
Basically, from my growing up as a kid in the same borough that Donald Trump and I were actually, the same ballpark. I had a paper out. He threw his out of the back of a limo.
How about you, Gabe? What are you going to do next?
Well, I think Annie and Blake, you already know this. You've been working on it with me, but 5 years ago, my daughter had a brain aneurysm, and she became paralyzed. And when I first I adopted my daughter at 5 years old, both my daughter and my son, all three of my children actually. And I never really felt like a father, and my daughter's brain aneurysm gave birth to me as a father. So suddenly I was starting to, I had to learn how to feed her and how to teach her how to talk and how to teach her how to walk and eat. And so, whereas before I didn't feel like a father, she definitely showed me how to be one. And that was my journey. And that's the next performance I'm writing. What about you, Stevie?
Well, I guess I'm writing a one-man show. I don't know. I just gotta find a thread, and I gotta talk to Annie and Blake about
I have a thread in my sweater.
Lewis
You want
Carroll.
it right there?
Yeah, perfect.
Eileen, what's going on next?
Yeah.
Well, I have news, everybody. I have news.
Hey.
So this piece was accepted to the Cincinnati Fringe Festival. So that will be good times. The Two Sketchy Dames is my improv troupe, and we've got a whole bunch of virtual cabarets coming up, and they are cautiously moving forward with Always Patsy Cline for the summer in the theater that I'm performing with. So hopefully I will be Patsy Cline here soon.
Terrific.
Hey, Huck, what are
Great.
you working on next?
Oh, we have a slew of stuff. We just got our new theater space, so we are working on a few solo pieces for now, and then we're going to move on to larger pieces when we find the compliancy to make that work, which will actually be very soon.
But
And
that's the we. What is the I? What is Huck
well,
going to do?
the I is we just got our funding to finish our new rock musical, so we're as we speak right now, I'm writing the final song in that, and we're concept album's coming out, or is being worked on next month, or being finished next month, and so you'll see a lot more about that. Seance the musical.
So
that's
is it
our big
possible
thing
that
right
you
now.
could invite all of us if you want us to hear something? I mean, we would be great audience for you.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll behave, we promise.
Annie and Blake, what's your next project?
I've been in talks with Monica Callan about just sending my video of Leading Men to her. She's working on a virtual festival in Vermont with two other companies, one in Canada, I think, and the other in maybe upstate New York. I'm not sure. Dennis, you're part of that too, I think. She's going to offer a variety of already filmed pieces, and I know she's going to be talking to us about all of you guys too. And they're offering them for free so that they find audiences for this kind of stuff. So that's kind of neat. I'm working on 2 screenplays, and I've had the seeds of my next solo play that are going around my brain, thanks to my wonderful son and talks I've had with a couple of our
Is there? What's another thing you're maybe working on?
Something with you.
Uh-huh.
What am I? Oh God.
Blake has written a brilliant pilot for a new TV series that we've now decided to write together.
Yeah, Huck,
and it's going to be
Huck suggested
amazing.
that he come into it because it would never be done otherwise. It's based on a play that I wrote that was never produced, and then it became a series in my head because it's a nice limited series. It really
It's
works
an important.
well.
It's an
Oh,
important.
good, I'm
one, too.
available. I'm available.
That's great.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
And technically, it's really cool because it involves one guy playing 2 different roles.
It's pretty high concept, but I think it's a really important.
Okay.
There's that.
And I have nothing to say anymore, so I'm done. I have nothing more in my artistic brain.
Well,
When are you coming out to
still
LA
think
to
the
do?
two of you should work on a piece with your journey as a couple and where you've come from.
Oh,
But Blake,
good one, Gabe.
Blake, I still haven't forgotten that conversation that we had in the lobby of Annie's show as you were going through the end stages of your mother. Your mother's passing and transition, and I still think that that would make a fabulous production. So I hope you haven't forgotten about that.
I haven't.
You know,
Right.
and it's funny because last night when we were finishing up filming at the gallery, 2 of the students that are good friends, and they looked and said, when we grow up, we want to be Annie and Blake.
Well, I have to say that it was such a pleasure just working with you all from this distance and to get to know you. And Annie and Blake, I'm going to reiterate what Huck said. You know, I think as we move forward with SaraSolo, this kind of camaraderie and work and collaboration with other solo artists is so important, because I think we're all dealing with the same things, and I think we can all use each other to elevate the experience of solo performance.
We have an academy now.
Agreed.
Good luck to all of you.
Good luck.
Yes.
Thank you,
Hope
guys.
This is not the only time I see you.
Yeah.
Oh no, we can meet.
You're part of the
like
academy
once a
now.
month.
We'll see you at the
We're going to be in the
luncheon.
next festival.
Right.
Tell you what, how about we all, circulate in email all of the ideas that we've had, and in particular links to things that we've talked about.
Yeah, it's a good idea, actually.
All right.
Yeah, we'll
let's do
try
that.
that with this too.
We should instigate that.
I
Yeah.
guess we will.
Yeah.
By the time you watch this, we already did. So
Yeah.
you're
Oh my
welcome.
God.
So there you
Love
go.
it.
Oh,
Annie and Blake, I'm looking forward to receiving all of our praise from the emails. So
Yes.
You
Oh
will.
yes,
I need
all of our praise.
I need an emotional boost.
You
No,
got it.
good, okay.
Let's get through the
Don't
board
we
meeting
all?
tonight, and then
Yeah.
In a year,
All
we
right.
all meet at the residual bar. In a year,
Exactly.
Exactly.
Right. Cash your
Yeah.
paycheck.
with our,
With
as
our
long as
little
it's under
checks.
$1.
Thanks,
Thank
you
you.
all.
All right,
Okay,
guys. Thank you so much.
everybody. You're
Night,
the best.
everybody.